Alright guys, so today I'm going to be showing you how to take apart and repair the lights inside of a SC816 and SC815 Volvo double DIN radio. So obviously we're going to have it here out on the bench. The process of getting these radios out is pretty easy, so I'll leave that up to you guys. So I'm going to show you guys how to do this with very basic tools. I would say probably less than $20 worth of tools from Harbor Freight. That's what I'm going to be using besides the needle nose pliers. That being said, you can get them there as well. So the first thing you're going to do is start off with a small flat blade. You're just going to want to pop these buttons off. I just like to pry up from the bottom. You shouldn't damage them at all. You can get a small flat blade right in the channel that they run in right here, and you should be able to get right up underneath them and pop them up. So there's 3 of those, and then the only other thing you're going to have to remove is this button right here. Now granted, you can use a flat blade for this, but usually you can just pull it up and it pops right out. Now just keep in mind it is keyed in the back, so it only goes on one way, but it just presses on. Alright, so going to the side of the unit here, you're going to have some Phillips heads. There's one here, and on the other side you have one here. The rest of them you don't need to do anything with. So there's 2 on these black tabs and 1 on this silver tab right here. So we're going to remove those. Now keep in mind, this silver tab, this bolt can sometimes be fairly difficult to get off. I actually ended up having to use a bigger screwdriver to get that one off with a 2-bit, but for the most part I'm using a number 1-bit. Now going to the other side, just pull that last one out. Now granted, I have already taken this radio apart one time, and I've taken a bunch of these apart before, so I have a pretty good idea of how they go back together, and that's why also these screws aren't as tight as they might be on yours. Now, the hardest part, honestly, is just getting these tabs out, and it's not that hard. It's more just kind of working your way around, being patient, taking your time. Again, we're going to use that flat blade and just start kind of prying up on each one. Now, there's not a particular side that I like to start on. However, I do find it easier sometimes to just use a second flat blade to keep the side that I started pried up. And you can go here and here, and you just pry them up and kind of push them forward. I can pull that out now. Go over to the side, pry this up, just being careful. Now notice this is going to go with it, this little metal tab. I'll put that back in the frame here. This one here, it did break on me, not a big deal. There's a bunch of other tabs that secure the faceplate on. It's not that hard. Alright, and the last 2, get under there with the flat blade. And there you go, the face should pop right off. Pulls right up. I'll set that over to the side. Now you're going to be looking at the board of the radio. There's going to be 2 more screws right here. So we'll take those off. Now granted, these are slightly different than the ones that hold the faceplate on, so I like to set them in their own little area. Having a magnetized screwdriver works as well. Again, these are from Harbor Freight. I think it was like $8 for a set of 6. It will be very helpful. Now, here's where people kind of get lost, because you're looking at this, you can see these blue little lights. Those are your, your backlights for your radio. However, you'll notice there's no easy way to get at them. They're actually in through the back of the board. Now, there are a few little spots, and you might need to pause to see them. I might try to highlight it for you. these spots right here, right here, right here, and right there are little metal tabs that have been pushed up through the face and then turned. So what you need to do is get your needle nose pliers on them and just turn them. And you're going to want to watch, and you're just going to turn them until they're lined up with the hole. You'll see this one's at sort of a 45-degree angle. I grab it, I turn it, and now it's straight. It lines up with the slot that it went through. This one's at about a 90-degree angle. I'll turn it, and now it's lined up. Grab this one, turn it, now it's lined up. Now, from here, you're just going to want to gently start sort of prying up on the board, just kind of wiggling it. You can grab it by the screen, you're not really going to damage anything. Obviously, exercise patience. You don't want to break anything on the board. You know, check all your little tabs. Sometimes they might need a slight adjustment. You know, they're not going to be perfectly lined up with the holes to come on out. All right, now you can see we have the faceplate out and the board out. It has a ribbon cable behind it. You can just hold it from the ribbon cable and slowly wiggle it out. And now from there, you can see we have access to the bulbs. All right, now that we have the board out, we're going to go ahead and take out the 5 T3 bulbs that are in here and replace them with the LEDs. Now, you can get these from a lot of places. I got mine from Amazon. I also ordered some from AliExpress directly. Unfortunately, they take a long time to get here from China, so I decided to get a couple off Amazon. Now, all I'm doing is taking a small flathead. There is a small notch in the back. All you have to do is turn them counterclockwise and they will come out. And one thing I'd like to point out is that I knew that a handful of these were already bad. I have a little module over here that plugs into the back of my radio so that I can test them on a bench. All right, I got all of them out. They should just pop out from the back. All right, now with the mount, you can see it's got 5 slots. I'm just going to take the T3s, slide them in, and give them a turn. Now I will say these are a little bit harder to get in just because the tolerances on them aren't quite as good as the originals. These are just cheap Amazon T3 wedge bulbs. That's why I'm using a slightly larger screwdriver. You just need to get the lines lined up with the arrows on the back of the board. Let me see if you can see that right there. Now that should be close enough. Like I said, the fitment on these is not that great, but if you look there, should be making contact. All right, so now let's get this reattached here. All right, now that we have the LEDs in, we're just going to go ahead and connect the ribbon cable into the back of the connector here. And you can see it just presses right back in. It is kind of firm, so you just have to slide it kind of back into the slot. And now I'm just going to set this back in here just so you can see kind of what we're doing. And now you'll see when I give it power, I can do the key, hit my power button. You'll see it comes up, it's working. And I hit the lights, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 working LEDs. All right, now that we have our LEDs in, what you're going to want to do, because you're probably not going to have something like this, is with it in this state, not put back together at all, put it in your car and test it. Some of these LEDs, you know, they only work when they're installed in one orientation. Sometimes you might get one that doesn't work, pop it out, reverse it, and put it back in. Usually it'll work. If not, you either have a dead LED, or in some cases, I have seen these where the actual socket for the lamp has gone bad and it will not illuminate anything at all. If that happens, you might end up having to just get another one of these out of a junkyard car and swap that in. Obviously, you already have it all apart, so you know what you got to do. All right, so now that we have it all back, what we're going to do is try to line up the tabs that we undid taking it apart. So I got that one lined up, all three of them lined up, and you're just going to push down and in until it just doesn't push down anymore. Now, you can turn them again and lock it in. I don't really see the point. It's not really going to go anywhere once the faceplate is on. That being said, I'm just going to tighten one. I'm just going to tighten this one, just a half a turn, and that's fine. I've never had one lose a faceplate and have this come out. You know, the ribbon cable has enough play in it that even if it does move around ever so slightly, it's not really going to go anywhere. All right, now with our Phillips head, we're going to put the 2 screws back in for the screen. Now, obviously, like I said in the beginning, you don't need to actually take these out. But I have seen cases where this silver bit right here can start to rust, and it actually starts to affect the area around the screen. Make sure that's nice and tight. For that, I'm using a number 1 Phillips head. Now, obviously, you're going to want to be careful to use magnetized tools. You do not want to drop a screw down inside there. You know, I don't know how many people still use cassette decks. I know a lot of people still use Bluetooth cassette decks. That being said, I do not. I use my own homebrewed vase unit. All right, so now we have the faceplate. We can just pop that on. Now, keep in mind, unplug this here. You're going to want to make sure that this metal tab is going through the slot on the side, so it'll line up. And everything else is just going to be kind of working it until everything just kind of pops into place. And there you go. Now, obviously, you can take your notched power button, line that up. Goes on. You got your slider buttons. You just press those back in. And then your 3 screws on the sides. Now you're going to have the 2 on this side. Again, a number 1 Phillips is usually more than enough. I did have to step it up to a 2 to get them off. And we got the other side here. Alright, and there you have it. So, that is pretty much how it's done. And I can show you again with all the lights on. You know, still works. Now, again, I used white LEDs here. I'm going to still experiment with using blue and green to give it more of that OEM look. However, that being said, if you wanted to, you could do all white LEDs throughout the entire interior of your Volvo. They all use this sort of design for a lot of their bulbs, where it's a bulb with this little blue kind of rubber, you know, rubber condom on top of it, like people like to say on the forums. So, let me turn off the lights again here and get you guys some, kind of beauty shots of the final product.